because we've been conditioned to believe that getting more is the path to peace, more money, more praise, more followers, more comfort, more control. But none of those things are lasting. None of them travel with you beyond this world. And none of them can guarantee contentment, because contentment isn't a thing, it's a state of being, and it's not found by collecting, but by growing, by surrendering, by aligning who you are with who you were created to be. And that's the secret almost no one talks about. The secret that true fulfillment doesn't come from stacking up worldly gains. It comes from inner growth, from building your character, learning to live with integrity, with patience, with compassion, and from knowing that your value has nothing to do with what's in your hands and everything to do with what's in your heart. And that's why even when you've achieved everything the world told you to chase, you can still feel lost, because you were never meant to define yourself by things that come and go. And while it's not wrong to want success, it becomes dangerous when you tie your peace to it. Because if your peace depends on what you get, you'll always be anxious. If it depends on who you become, you'll always find your way back. And the truth is, every difficulty you faced, every delay, every rejection, every disappointment, they weren't there to break you. They were there to shape you. Because the Most Wise doesn't build you through ease. He builds you through process, through growth, through challenge. And while the world may reward appearance and performance, your Creator looks deeper into intention, into effort, into sincerity. And that's why some of the most peaceful souls you'll ever meet are not the wealthiest or the most popular, the most praised. They're the ones who have quietly done the inner work, the ones who have faced their fears, wrestled with their egos, humbled themselves, and chosen peace over pride, patience over pressure, character over convenience. And when you become someone who is more concerned with your inner world than how you look on the outside, you'll start to feel something shift. Not instantly, not dramatically, but gradually, like a weight being lifted, like clarity returning, like the fog of confusion slowly clearing away. Because your soul was never designed to find peace in possessions. It was designed to find peace in purpose, and purpose is not about proving anything to anyone. It's about serving, growing, and becoming someone who reflects the light of mercy, of compassion, of integrity, and of faith. And when you start walking that path, you'll notice something else. Your wants begin to change. Your need for approval becomes quieter. Your obsession with outcomes fades. And your focus shifts from getting to giving, from demanding to developing, from taking to transforming. And you start to see life not as something you have to control, but something you are being guided through. And that guidance doesn't always look the way you want. It might come through heartbreak, through failure, through unexpected change. But if you're willing to look deeper, to trust more, you'll realize those were the moments that taught you the most, the ones that forced you to grow in ways comfort never could. And that growth, that quiet, internal, unseen growth, that is the most valuable thing you'll ever carry, because when everything else falls away, your character remains, your sincerity remains, your patience, your humility, your trust in the merciful. Those are the things that matter in this life. And the next, those are the things that build real fulfillment, the kind that doesn't disappear when the applause fades or when plans fall apart. And maybe today is the day you stop asking, what can I get from life? And start asking, who am I becoming through this life? Because when you live with that question in your heart, your actions begin to change, your mindset begins to shift, and your soul begins to settle. Not because you've underachieved everything, but because you've understood what truly matters. And that's the moment you begin to taste fulfillment, not the loud, flashy kind, but the quiet, steady kind that holds you through uncertainty, that carries you through pain, and that stays with you no matter where you are. And maybe you're not there yet. Maybe you're still figuring things out, still healing, still struggling to let go of old ways of thinking. But that's okay, because the journey isn't about perfection, it's about direction. And every day you choose growth over greed, purpose over performance, sincerity over success. You're taking a step closer to the kind of fulfillment that doesn't just look good, but feels right. And that feeling, that alignment, that peace, that is what your soul has been searching for all along. We live in a world that constantly screams louder is better, more means happier, and success is measured by how much you've collected, not how much you've cultivated within yourself. But what if that's the very reason so many people are tired, restless, empty, always chasing but never arriving, always achieving but never feeling truly at peace? What if the truth is that the very things we chase, titles, wealth, appearance, recognition, are shadows, not substance, and while they might bring momentary satisfaction, they were never meant to fill the void that only purpose, character, and deep inner growth can fill? Because fulfillment was never about building an empire on the outside while your soul feels like it's crumbling on the inside. Maybe that's why people who seem to have it all still wake up feeling anxious, still cry in silence, still wonder if they've missed something essential. Because when you build your life on what you can lose, fear becomes your companion. When you build your life on who you are becoming, on your values, on your connection to your Creator, on your sincerity and effort, you create a peace that no one can take away from you. And that's the kind of fulfillment we were created for, the kind that doesn't depend on external gain, but internal grace. And yet so many people are running away from that, not because they don't want peace, because they don't know where to find it, or worse, because they've been taught that slowing down to reflect, to heal, to grow in character is weakness, when in reality, that might be the bravest thing you ever do. To pause in a world that tells you to hustle, to listen to your soul when everyone else is chasing noise, to choose substance over surface, to grow roots instead of just branches. And maybe that's what real strength is. Being able to sit with yourself in silence and still feel at peace. Because peace doesn't come from having everything. It comes from needing less, from trusting more, from aligning your daily life with timeless truths. And those truths are not complicated. Speak the truth, even when it's hard. Be kind, even when no one sees it. Be patient, even when your plans delay. Be grateful, even when life is uncertain. And most of all, never lose sight of who you are in the pursuit of what you want. Because what you want will change, but who you become will remain. And if you build yourself around trust, around sincerity, around service to others, and around that quiet humility that recognizes that every good you have is from the most generous, then even when your plans fall apart, you won't fall with them, because your identity wasn't rooted in the plan. It was rooted in the purpose behind it, and that purpose doesn't disappear. When things go wrong, it only deepens. And if you can hold on to that purpose, even in the face of disappointment, You'll find yourself growing in ways you never expected, not louder, not flashier, but deeper, wiser, more balanced, and more peaceful. Because the storm might still rage outside, but inside you're anchored. And that's the secret most people miss. They chase control, thinking it will bring peace. But real peace doesn't come from control. It comes from surrender, from knowing that you are not in charge of every outcome. You are in charge of your intention, your response, your growth, and that is more than enough. And maybe that's the shift we need. To stop asking, what do I still need to get to feel whole? And start asking, what part of me still needs to grow to feel aligned? Because the truth is, you can decorate your life with everything the world calls success. But if your soul is starving for truth, for meaning, for depth, you will feel that hunger no matter how much you've achieved. And that hunger is not a sign that something is wrong. It's a signal that you're ready for more, not more noise, not more things, but more substance, more soul, more intention, more stillness. And when you respond to that hunger, not by consuming, but by reflecting, by changing, by humbling yourself before the most merciful and asking, who do you want me to become through this? Then you're not just existing, you're evolving. And that kind of evolution is rare. But it's the only kind that leads to real, lasting fulfillment. The kind that doesn't disappear when your circumstances change. And in a world where image is everything, where people build their lives around appearances, it takes real courage to care more about your character than your brand, more about how you treat people than how many people follow you, more about your inner peace than your outer praise. And that courage is where your transformation begins, because fulfillment isn't a destination. It's a direction, a way of living, a mindset that chooses becoming overperforming. And when you live that way, you begin to see setbacks differently. You begin to see difficult people as mirrors, not enemies. You begin to see detours as divine protection. And you begin to understand that success is not something you reach. It's someone you become. And who you become is shaped not by your comfort, by your consistency, your character, your daily choices, your unseen patience, your honest efforts, your silent prayers, and your ability to return again and again to the path of sincerity, of growth, of meaning. And when your heart begins to desire that more than it desires applause, you will taste a kind of peace the world can't give you, and it can't take away either, because it doesn't come from them. It comes from within, and it was placed there by the one who created you with a higher purpose than consumption, a higher calling than just getting things, and a more beautiful story than the one you've been told by a world that profits off your dissatisfaction. So write a new story, not based on what you can show, but based on what you can share, not based on what you can collect, but on what you can contribute. Because in the end, what will stay with you is not the trophies, but the transformation, not the applause, but the peace. And if you're willing to let go of the illusion that more equals more better, and embrace the reality that better begins within, then the journey toward fulfillment won't just be possible. It will be inevitable. You see, somewhere along the way we were taught that life is all about chasing dreams, chasing money, chasing success, chasing people, chasing approval. And we ran so far and so fast trying to catch something that would finally make us feel whole, that we forgot to ask the most important question: what if the peace we're looking for isn't out there at all, buried beneath all the noise we've collected inside? Because the truth is, most people are not tired from doing too little. They're exhausted from trying to be everything to everyone, trying to prove their worth by achieving more, owning more, becoming more impressive in the eyes of a world that never really pauses long enough to care. And maybe that's the first shift we need to make, the realization that if we keep measuring our value by how productive we are or how admired we become, we will always feel behind, always feel insecure, always feel like we're not enough. And yet, fulfillment doesn't come when you reach the top of the ladder. It comes when you realize you don't need to climb at all if the ladder is leaning against the wrong wall, and the wrong wall is anything that promises peace by external means but leaves your soul starving for sincerity, for purpose, for authenticity. And this is where the deep inner work begins, because becoming isn't about proving anything. It's about aligning everything. Aligning your actions with your values, your pace with your principles, your ambitions with your intentions, and your heart with the guidance of the most merciful. And this is not a path of perfection, it's a path of return, where every day is a new chance to come back to what really matters, to unclench your fists from what you can't control and open your hands to what's already been given to you. Life, breath, faith, time, opportunity. The people who love you even when you feel unlovable, the quiet moments where clarity visits, the stillness where you remember who you are beneath the noise. And this is the key. Fulfillment isn't something you stumble upon by accident. It's something you cultivate intentionally by focusing less on getting things and more on becoming someone who can live with peace. Even when everything is uncertain, someone who can hold integrity even when it costs them something, someone who doesn't just worship in rituals, but in character, in how they treat others, in how they carry themselves when no one's watching. And this kind of fulfillment is subtle, but it's powerful. It doesn't flash, but it lasts. And the more you nurture it, the more you begin to see how all the chasing never really satisfied you. It only distracted you. The real treasure was always who you were becoming in the waiting, in the struggle, in the stillness between where you were and where you thought you had to be. And maybe now you're beginning to see the beauty of the slow path, the one where you no longer measure your life by outcomes, but by alignment, by whether you're living in a way that feels truthful, purposeful, deeply connected to the values you hold, and the Creator who formed your soul with wisdom. And in this space, something shifts. You no longer chase love, you embody it. You no longer beg for validation. You know your worth. You no longer obsess over arrival. You honor the journey. And that shift doesn't happen all at once, but it begins the moment you stop asking, what more can I get? And start asking, what kind of person am I becoming? Because it's easy to look successful and feel hollow, but it's deeply fulfilling to live a quiet life of honesty, of service, of resilience, of purpose. And sometimes the most successful people are the ones no one notices, because they're not loud, they're not flashy, they are sincere, they are patient, they are consistent. And the reward is not in recognition, but in inner peace. And that's a reward no one can give you or take away from you. It's a gift that comes from within, from being true to who you are, from honoring your Creator by honoring your character, from remembering that your real legacy is not what you build with your hands, what you leave in the hearts of others. And if you can live that way, if you can walk into rooms not trying to be impressive, but trying to be a source of calm, of kindness, of presence, then you've already found what most people are still chasing. That doesn't mean you'll never struggle. It means you'll know how to navigate the struggle. It means when things fall apart, you won't collapse because you weren't standing on ego. You were anchored in sincerity, and sincerity is the quiet superpower of the soul, quality that turns every moment, no matter how small, into something sacred. And if you can live sincerely, if you can speak truthfully, give generously, forgive patiently, listen deeply, walk humbly, then you are already more fulfilled than any external title could ever make you. Because you're not just existing, you're becoming, and not just becoming someone impressive, but someone whole, someone grounded, someone real. And the world doesn't always reward that, but the most just sees it all, counts it all, multiplies it all. And in his eyes, nothing sincere is ever wasted. Not the tears, not the setbacks, not the tiny acts of character that no one saw, but he did. And that's what makes this journey worth walking. Not because it's easy, but because it's real. And real is what your soul has been craving all along. There's a strange kind of emptiness that settles in when you've done everything right, followed all the rules, achieved what they said you should achieve. And yet, deep inside, something still feels missing. And that's when you begin to realize that fulfillment was never tied to what you were reaching for. It was always about what you were releasing. And maybe that's the deeper lesson no one told you, that becoming fulfilled is not about adding more to your life. It's about gently letting go of what was never truly yours to carry. The pressure to impress, the fear of being behind, the illusion that your worth is measured by your productivity, the constant craving for validation, and the endless comparisons that whisper you're not enough. And once you begin to lay those things down, not out of defeat, but out of wisdom, something powerful happens. Not overnight, not all at once, but quietly, like peace returning to a stormed room, like clarity blooming in a heart that was clouded by noise, and you start to feel yourself again. Not the version shaped by expectations, but the version anchored in meaning, in presence, in the remembrance that your soul was never created to chase the world. It was created to be still, to trust, to connect, to reflect the light of the most compassionate in every small action, every patient decision, every sincere intention. And in that stillness, you begin to hear what the noise had buried for so long. The voice of purpose, the quiet whisper that reminds you that who you're becoming matters more than what you're achieving. And maybe that's why things didn't happen the way you planned. Maybe that's why the path was harder, the delay longer, the climb steeper, because your Creator was not punishing you. He was preparing you, refining you, humbling you, teaching you that fulfillment can never be built on ego, control, on shortcuts. It must be built on trust, on patience, on becoming someone who can carry both success and silence with grace. And while the world tells you to chase faster, higher, louder, your soul is asking you to slow down, to feel again, to live again, not through performance but through presence, because presence is where peace lives, and it's in the quiet moments. The early morning reflection, the hidden act of kindness, the tear shed in private, the decision to forgive silently, the prayer whispered sincerely. That the most powerful growth happens not because anyone is watching, but because your heart is aligning with truth. And in that alignment, you find what you've been chasing all along. Not excitement, but contentment, not applause, but inner peace, not control, but connection. And this is the beauty of the path of becoming. It asks nothing from you except sincerity, effort, the willingness to trust that the most loving is not looking for perfection, but for presence, not for results, but for realness. And when you begin to live that way, even your smallest actions become meaningful. Even your ordinary days become sacred, and even your setbacks become stages for transformation, because you start to see everything, every delay, every rejection, every struggle, not as punishment, but as a lesson, a refinement, an opportunity to become more grounded, more resilient, more surrendered. And isn't that what true fulfillment really is? Not just feeling good, but becoming good. Not just gaining things, but growing in ways that last, in patience, in truthfulness, in trust, in compassion, in humility, in gratitude. And that growth doesn't need to be loud, doesn't need to be shared, doesn't need to be seen by anyone else, because the most aware sees all of it, and that's enough, that's more than enough. And so you begin to detach, not from the world completely, but from the belief that the world owns your happiness, and in that detachment, there is relief, not because you stop caring, but because you stop depending, and you start to place your hope where it belongs, not in outcomes, not in timing, not in people, but in the wisdom of your Creator. And that hope changes everything, because now you can work without anxiety, you can strive without desperation, you can love without fear, and you can let go without falling apart, because your anchor is no longer what happens around you. It's what's happening within you, and within you, something beautiful is unfolding. A quiet confidence, a peaceful strength, a steady heart that no longer needs to be seen to feel valuable, because it knows that every moment of sincerity is already seen, already counted, already rewarded by the most just. And if you can live with that awareness, then every part of your life becomes sacred. The way you speak to others, the way you show up even when no one claps, the way you hold your tongue when you're angry, the way you keep your promises even when it's hard, the way you keep going even when your prayers haven't been answered yet. And in that consistency, you begin to realize that you don't need to have everything to feel fulfilled. You just need to become someone who sees everything as an opportunity to become better, deeper, softer, stronger, and more in tune with the purpose for which you were created. And when that purpose becomes your compass, you'll stop being shaken by what doesn't go your way, because now your peace doesn't depend on smooth roads. It depends on divine direction, and as long as you're headed toward becoming someone who pleases the Most Kind, you're already succeeding. And that's why you must keep going, not for the applause, not for the outcome, but because the journey itself is shaping your soul in ways comfort never could. And maybe that's the real definition of fulfillment, not arriving at a perfect destination, but walking a path that makes you more honest, more grateful, more generous, and more sincere, even if no one sees it, but the one who sees everything. There's a beautiful peace that comes when you realize you don't have to chase what was never meant to fill you, when you stop asking life to give you more and instead begin asking, what can I give back with what I already have? And in that moment, a shift begins, so subtle yet so powerful, because fulfillment was never about becoming someone others admire. It was about becoming someone your soul recognizes, someone you can live with in silence, someone you don't have to run away from. And maybe, just maybe, that's what you've been searching for all along, not more achievements, not more noise, but a quiet return to yourself, a homecoming of the heart where you no longer need to prove, perform, or perfect, only to be real, to be sincere, to be guided, and to be in service of something far greater than your ego, something far deeper than your desires. Because when you live for the approval of the world, you become a prisoner of its moods. But when you live for the pleasure of the most merciful, you begin to rise beyond the chaos, beyond the confusion, and beyond the constant feeling that you're behind. And you begin to walk with a peace that cannot be explained, only experienced. And that peace is not born in applause. It's born in the stillness after surrender, in the gentle courage of doing what's right, even when it's hard, in the soft power of showing up each day not to chase outcomes, but to nurture character, to serve others quietly, and to live with the kind of integrity that brings contentment, even when the world gives you nothing in return. And if you've ever wondered why some people radiate a light that draws others to them, not because of their looks or their wealth or their fame, because of the calm they carry, the wisdom in their words, and the warmth in their presence. It's because they've done the inner work, they've stripped away the layers of neediness, of attachment, of constant comparison, and instead rooted themselves in faith, in service, in trust, and in values that don't expire with trends or seasons. And that's the invitation before you now, not to become someone impressive, but someone meaningful. Not to have more, but to be more patient, more kind, more grateful, more trusting, more forgiving, more present, more aligned with the character of those who came before us, like the Prophet, peace be upon him, whose legacy was not built on what he owned, on who he was, truthful, patient, compassionate, strong, and deeply connected to the Most High. And if you choose that path, if you choose to become instead of just achieve, you'll begin to realize that the real gift of this life was never in what it gave you. It was in what it made of you. And every trial, every setback, every delay, every closed door, it all played a part in revealing who you truly are, in shaping your resilience, your humility, your clarity, and your trust. That's why you don't need to regret the difficult chapters, because they held the tools you needed to grow into the person you were always meant to be. And yes, it's okay if you're still healing, still learning, still unlearning, because becoming is not a moment. It's a lifelong unfolding, and the goal is not perfection, but progression. The goal is not to win in the eyes of the world, but to be at peace when you close your eyes at night, knowing you lived sincerely, gave generously, and walked in integrity, even when no one applauded you for it. Because the truth is, most of your fulfillment will come from moments no one else sees. From the quiet forgiveness you offer, from the silent prayers you make, from the consistent effort you show up with when no one is watching, from the choices you make when your ego wants revenge, but your soul chooses patience. And those moments, they build something eternal, something the world can't measure, but your heart can feel. And that's why you must never underestimate the power of becoming. Because in becoming someone sincere, someone of character, someone who reflects mercy and truth in a world full of noise, you are already living your highest purpose, and you don't need a perfect plan to do that. You just need sincerity, consistency, and trust. And even if you've made mistakes, even if you feel behind, even if your past is messy, none of that disqualifies you from a beautiful future, because our Creator is not limited by your history. He is shaping you through it. And He calls you not because you are perfect, but because you are capable of becoming. And becoming is your gift to the world. Not just the people you'll inspire, but the way you'll treat those who can never repay you. The dignity you'll carry in hardship, the faith you'll cling to in the dark, the humility you'll show in success, and the compassion you'll offer when no one expects it. And this is your reminder, your permission, your invitation. You don't need to become someone else to be fulfilled. You just need to become who you were always meant to be, beneath the fear, beneath the comparison, beneath the pressure. And that version of you, that grounded, purposeful, present and peaceful version is still within reach, not because the journey is easy, because the one who guides it is near, and He never burdens a soul beyond what it can bear. So bear what you must, but carry it with grace, carry it with trust, and carry it knowing that everything you give in the process of becoming is already known, already counted, already rewarded, and already shaping a legacy that lives beyond what you achieve. It lives in who you are, and that is the secret. It was never about what you got. It was always about who you became, and who you became is what will remain even after everything else fades away.